Okay. Once again, welcome to the Netivot Shalom Shir. This week's Parsha is Parsha Mishpatim, and that's the Parsha that comes right after Parsha Yitro, where we receive the Torah. And the Parsha of Mishpatim starts with a Vav. It says Ve'elu Mishpatim, and these are the laws. And the Meforshim say the reason it says Ve'elu with the Vav is to show that just as the Aseret HaDibrot, the other commandments were given at Har Sinai, so too were all these other commandments, these Mishpatim that's in this Parsha. There's an interesting statement in this week's Parsha, which says as follows. It says, Vayikach Sefer HaBris, Moshe took out the book of the covenant, Vikra ba'aznei ha'am, and he read in the ears of the people, Vayomru, and they said, Kol asher diber Hashem Naaseh V'Nishma. All that Hashem has said, we will do and we will listen. Or we will do and we will obey. Naaseh V'Nishma. The Meforshim, the Netivot Shalom is going to talk about this. It sounds like this should have been said before Matan Torah, before we received the Torah. And there's a machlokas, as we see many times, among the commentators, a dispute. And some say that Ein mukdam u'muchar b'Torah. There is no chronological aspect of the Torah. The fact that something may be written in one parsha doesn't mean that it happened at that point. It could have happened easier. So, according to those that say Ein mukdam u'muchar b'Torah, the statement really happened before we received the Torah. It's just a little background to get into this Netivot Shalom. And Netivot Shalom says as follows. Vayovo Moshe, this repeats the same sentence I just said. Vayis por l'am is called Divrei Hashem, is called Mishpatim. Beyond Kol Kol Echad, they answered in one voice. Yomru Kol Asher Dibra Hashem Naaseh. Whatever Hashem says, we will do. Actually, he's referring to a sentence a couple of psukim ago that just says Naaseh without the Nishma. It says Kol Asher Adaber Naaseh. Whatever you say, we will do. But it doesn't say the Nishma. Then it says V'yichtov Moshe is called Divrei Hashem, and so on. V'yikach Sefer HaBris, V'yikra ba'aznei ha'am. That's our pasuk that I read before. V'yomer Kol Asher Divrei Hashem Naaseh V'Nishma. Now we have the Naaseh and Nishma. And what we're going to be seeing from this whole study of this Netivot Shalom is hopefully we're going to learn a way to come closer to Hashem. And I'll give you a hint. When you light the Shabbos candles or you do any other mitzvah, how do you start the bracha? You start it. And so on. That God has made us holy and commanded us to do such and such. So we're going to see how that fits in to Naaseh and Nishma and how we can better serve God. And this Parsha, he says, was given before Matan Torah, before the Torah was given. Rashi says, he says, so okay, if it was given before, why is it written here? Even though there is no chronological order in the Torah, there must be some reason that if it's being said here, there must be some reason that the part of the receiving the Torah is divided into two different sections. Chelka Parshas Yisro. One chelik, one part of it is in the Parsha of Yisro, last week's Parsha. The Chelka B'sof Mishpatim. The other is in the end of this Parsha of Mishpatim. V'emtza hapasik b'chol Parshas Mishpatim. And Emtza Hifsik, and in the middle they stop. The entire Parsha of Mishpatim. V'av shedorshu Chazal. And even though our sages tell us, Yomru Ve'ela Mishpatim, with the Vav, as I pointed out at the beginning, and these are the Mishpatim, Shemosif ala Rishona, that they're connected to the first ones, maybe Aseres HaDibros, Ma Rishoni Misinai, Afela Misinai, just as the first commandments in Parsha Yisro were given at Sinai, at Har Sinai, so too, these commandments, and Mishpatim were also given at Har Sinai. So I lezed dai hoye b'kosfo ve'elu lachar kol parshas kabbalas Torah. It would have been sufficient to write this after the receiving of the Torah in Parsha Yisro. Lama hefsik b'emsa. Why do we have this division in the middle? Od yesh daik b'amru v'yom Moshe v'yisaper la'am es kol divrei Hashem. We also have to look at the wording. It says the first time that Moshe came and said these words in their ears. Madu nemer lashon v'yisaper. Why does it say the word v'yisaper? He told v'lo k'b'shar makomos v'yomer o v'yidaber. Why does it say like other places? Where Moshe is speaking, it says v'yomer Moshe v'yidaber Moshe. Why is it said in this language of v'yisaper? V'sifrei HaKodesh, Devar Moshe, Divrei Moshe, the words of this Sefer, Divrei Moshe, Meharav HaKodesh Rav Moshe Badolina, Zochein Levracha, Maksha Od Bezah. He asks another question about this. Madua betchilas kasiv rak vayomru kol asher dibra Hashem Naaseh. Before we get to the sentence that this Netivot Shalom was about Naaseh V'Nishma, the people said, whatever God says, Naaseh, we will do. Barak la'acher, v'yichtov Moshe, v'yikra b'azdei ha'am, kasi v'yomru kol shadibra Hashem Naaseh V'Nishma. Only after it said that Moshe wrote all these things down and then read them, only then do we see Naaseh V'Nishma. Od HaKosher Sham, Akush, there's another question he asks. Why is it in that order? Why does Bnei Yisrael say we will do and then we will, sometimes Nishma is interpreted as we will learn. We will do and we will learn. We will hear, we will obey. But why is it said first we will do? It should say we will learn and then we'll do. Eich Efshar, he says, Eich Efshar, how is it possible? How is it possible to do something before you learn about it, you understand what you're supposed to do? It seems like it's backwards. And on this same concept, our sages asked the following question: Kiyum Avraham Avinu as kol Torah kulo ad shelo nitna. That Avraham kept the entire Torah, even though it wasn't given yet. How is that possible? How could he give the Torah before? How could he fulfill all the aspects of the Torah before it was given? How would he know what to do? How does he know what the Torah wants of him? Muvor, and they explain, we know that the 613 commandments represent the 613 limbs and vessels, sinews of a human being, the physical aspect of a human being. Just as we have these 613 different divisions in a human being of limbs and bodily parts, veins, arteries, sinews, etc. just as you have that on the physical. Similarly, with the neshama, you have 248 Evorim, different limbs, so to speak, V'Sagidim, and 365 blood vessels, sinews, etc. Amakablim Hayusam, that they receive their life sustenance, Aidekiyum Tareg Mitzvos, through the fulfilling of the 613 commandments. In other words, just as your body receives sustenance from doing the mitzvot, so too does your neshama receive sustenance. Being came, if so, being haroya hayush kamosh ein tzorech the pato that the adam lechol tzorech kiyum gufo. Just like you don't have to force a person to eat in order to live, people do it naturally. Shaguf mitzad tibo mitava v'atzmo lechol achioso at gufo ibli shum kapiya v'lachatz. God created us so that we have this desire to eat without anybody forcing us to eat. It's a natural thing. I feel tinuk ben yoma, a 1-day-old child, makiru maybe miatzmo ravo nafsho, understands when they're hungry. Uvocha ad shemachilim also, and they cry until they get fed. And so we have to see how this applies to the aspect of Torah. Shekol ish Yisrael yeh ta'av ma'atzmo l'chaim kol tareg mitzvah shem hamazoman aruchni l'ishmos. Every Jew should have a desire by himself to fulfill all of the 613 commandments, which is the nourishment for the soul. And you have to, in order to do that, you have the problem of the obstruction of the materiality, the material world that you live in. That is a barrier. Because of all the material things that you need, all the material things that you do on a daily basis, it doesn't leave room for you to even feel the spiritual aspect. The materiality stands as a barrier between a person and between his spirituality. And now getting back to Avraham Avinu, he purified the materiality so that it wouldn't interfere with him. As the sages say, Ben Shlosh Shanim, when Avraham Avinu was 3 years old, he recognized that there's only one God in this world. After that, he was thrown by the Nebuchadnezzar into the fiery furnace in Ur Kasdim. Lo nishtar bo shum shemetz shel chomer lo bo eish. And the fire didn't do anything to him, had no effect on him. He didn't get burned from it. Alachain lo haya Avraham Avinu tzorech lilmod haTorah v'mitzvos. He didn't need to learn Torah and mitzvos. Kiven she'voram haya nimshachim atzmam b'chaftzam l'kayim mitzvah, because his very limbs were already in tune with what Hashem wanted to be able to do a mitzvah. Kamo shebateva ha'adam shu taiv le'achol kach haya Avraham Avinu nimshach l'kayim kol tareg mitzvos. Just like the nature of a person is to want to eat, so too the nature of Avraham Avinu was to fulfill the Taryag mitzvos, Gam Kodem Shnita Torah, even before the Torah was given. Ugamanda Omar, as we say, B'Sifrei HaKodesh, Al Pasuk, we've discussed this a number of times. Vayishlach Avram es Yado, when Yitzchak was on the Mizbeach, ready to be, according to Avram, he thought he was going to be sacrificed. Vayishlach Avram es Yado, he sent out his hand. Vayikach es hamachelas, he took the knife to sacrifice his son. Shatevos vayishlach es Yadam heim lechura yoter lashon. This is extra wording. What is this language? He sent out his hand. It just said vayikach. So what does that mean? The hiyos shavera shel Avraham Avinu olav shalom asu me'atzmos rotzon Hashem. He was so attuned to God that even his limbs, every fiber of his body, wanted to do the will of Hashem. Rotzon Hashem hoya. Hashem did not want him to sacrifice Yitzchak. Therefore, his hand wouldn't go to take the knife. But it's he had to push against that with power. And this we can understand. Naaseh V'Nishma. How it can be that you can agree to do something without even understanding what is done. Chazal say Yisrael Amdu Har Sinai. When Bnei Yisrael were standing at Har Sinai, all of their defilement that they had from Mitzrayim left them. Their materiality was completely purified. And because of this, they came to the aspect of being able to say Naaseh V'Nishma. We don't have to learn about it first. We'll do it. Because you want us to do it, we'll do it. So even before they knew what they're supposed to do, their Evorim would themselves want to do the Ratzon of Hashem, the will of Hashem. We have the same kind of thing in the Haggadah, where it says on Dayenu, Ilu Karvan Lifnei Har Sinai, Lo Nasan Lo Nasa Torah Dayenu. If Hashem had only brought us before Har Sinai, had not given us the Torah, that would have been enough. What does that mean? What good does it do? Bring us before Har Sinai, before Mount Sinai, not give us the Torah. Ella, HaPerush, the explanation is, Kiba Omdom Har Sinai, Paskazu Mosan, when they stood at Har Sinai, their defilement left them, but Nizkach HaChomer Shlehem, and their materiality was purified. Oz Gam Im Lo Hoy Mitztapim B'Matan Torah. Even if they hadn't been commanded at the giving of the Torah, every part of their body, their Evorim, were ready to do the work of Hashem. Just like Avraham Avinu fulfilled all of the Torah without it being given. His Evorim, and we've said before, we've talked about it previous weeks. Kolatz Mosai Tomarnu Hashem. All of my bones shall speak, shall say, Michamocha, who is great like you, Hashem. In other words, our very being should be infused with the love of Hashem, the wanting to do what Hashem wants of us. Okay, therefore, Baal Haggadah Messiah, the person who wrote the Haggadah, the people who wrote the Haggadah, they finished Tova Kafula Muchabelas Lamakmalenu, that this was a double goodness that God did for us. Our Sinai, that He not only brought us to our Sinai, but for us the Torah also gave us the Torah. Matan Torah, Nosefet lahem madrega chadasha. At the receipt of the Torah, a new level was given to Bnei Yisrael. Gadol hamitzvah va'osa. The Gemara says that somebody who is commanded to do something and then does it, he's greater than mimi she'einu mitzvah osa, greater than somebody who just does a mitzvah but is not commanded. To see what is written there. And that's an important concept. And he's going to talk about it here, that Gadol hamatzuva, b'she'einu matzuva. Person who is commanded to do something and does it because you're commanded is much better than just doing a mitzvah without being commanded. There are two different aspects of being commanded and doing. In fulfilling of every mitzvah, as our sages have said, Shamarti v'Naaseh V'Nishma. So I said, and you will do my will. That only applies to somebody who has been commanded to do this. Excuse me. Also in this, Kosher Kodesh Baruch Hu, Mitzvah Harat Sibui Nosin Koach Elyon Yehudi. By trying to fulfill the commandment because it's commanded, that gives a Jew power to be able to sit and to be able to do this mitzvah despite all of the tests of this world. Nanim harbe yesh b'Torah. There are many things in the Torah that a person is not worthy of is not able to fulfill them. Rak bash yesh azet sivui, only because there's a commandment. No saying lo koach legiel lezeh. The fact that it's commanded gives you the power to do it. But above all of this, on the aspect of being commanded, by doing something that you're commanded, not because it makes sense, but because you're commanded to do it. It's the ratzon of Hashem, it's the will of Hashem. Then you reach the root, the higher root of this commandment. When you do a mitzvah because God commanded it, you're bringing down upon yourself a higher level of holiness, from the root of the commandment, and we become able to cleave closer with God. As he says in the aspect of kibbud avayim, the mitzvah of kibbud avayim, honor your father and mother. This is a logical mitzvah. Everybody can understand how important it is to give honor, to respect your mother and your father. After all, they're providing for you, right? Also, the non-Jews fulfill this commandment also. If a Jew fulfills this mitzvah only because he happens to understand it intellectually, it's this greater. It's a good thing, but that's only what it is. It's a good thing. Contrary, when a Jew does something, because Hashem commanded it, This awakens as Shoresh HaMitzvah, the root of the commandment, and you reach a higher level of holiness. And remember that the whole purpose of doing mitzvahs is to become closer to Hashem, to have devekut with Hashem. Chazal say, Anochi for Anochi Hashem Elokeichem, I am the Lord your God, the first of the Aseret HaDibrot. Notrikon, the Notrikon is where you take the first letters of something and make a word out of it. So the Notrikon is Anu Nefesh Ketivat Yavi. I myself have written this and given it to you. Shaldas Shenefesh Hatzadik Atuf B'Diboro. Just as the soul of a righteous person is encompassed by his words. Kach Kaviocha Hashem Yisborach Nafsho Otefes B'Divrei Torah. So too, Hashem is encompassed, so to speak, by the words of Torah. Because it is Hari B'Chol Mitzvah Shetziva HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem Yisborach B'Torah. Every mitzvah God commands in the Torah. Yesh bo b'chinas ana nafshi kativa yavi. There's the aspect, I have written this and given it to you. Some say that means give it to you as a pleasant gift. Because Yehudi b'kayim is a mitzvah. When a Jew fulfills this mitzvah, harizeh medabek osel Hashem Yisborach, he becomes closer to Hashem. V'zehui hamala. This is the hamala tova. This is the higher level, that God gave us the Torah. Even though we could fulfill the actual physical aspect of doing the mitzvah, but etinat haTorah, when God gave us the Torah, nosefet lehem mashmot acheret chadasha legamri, that He added a whole new aspect. Mitzvah, to the doing of every mitzvah. Because then you have the higher level of doing something because you're commanded to and you do it. Every mitzvah has a higher root to come closer to God. At the receiving of the Torah, we turned around the doing something, the concept of doing something because it made sense, intellectual sense. Certainly, and not to kill somebody, not to commit adultery, not to kidnap somebody. These all make sense to most people, right? But to be, we have to look at it a different way, that these things are not just nice things that society should do. This is a part of the Torah. And when we do them or refrain from doing them, as the case may be, you are doing it because that's what Hashem said. In other words, when you do a mitzvah, we have in the Parsha of Chukas, for example, we're talking about the Pora Adoma, the red cow, red heifer. It says, Zos Chukas HaTorah. This is the statute of the Torah. And the Meforshim ask, why doesn't it say Zos Chukas HaPorah? This is the statute teaching us about the red heifer. And the answer is because the whole purpose of doing any mitzvah is because it's a chok of the Torah. It's what God commanded us to do, and not to look for any other reasons. Too many people look for reasons. The problem is, if you look for a reason, you think that the Torah is given only based on reasons that are discernible to us, that make sense to us at one time. Those things can change in history, as we see in our own lives. Things that 20, 30 years ago nobody would have thought of doing, now they're commonplace. They're accepted by many quote, civilized countries. That's not the way of the Torah. The Torah doesn't say that if it makes sense to you intellectually, you should do it, otherwise not. The Torah says this is Torah. This is Torah, and you've got to do it. And you can't say that everybody's doing these things. No. Torah, kiblu mitzvos elu. We receive these mitzvos mashmot acheres in another way. But kavana v'havana, the intention and the understanding is acheres, is different. But kavar einze also lo tirtzach shabali kabbalas Torah. There is no commandment of not killing without the Torah. Even if something wouldn't have been commanded by the Torah, there are times when, as I indicated a minute ago, people would be loose in the observance of it. They say it's permissible. Something that the Torah was saying was prohibited, the society would say, well, this is now permissible. But when the Torah commands you on this, then it means on every aspect. Because through the commandment, we are adding this, your ability to connect with the higher root of a mitzvah. And every single mitzvah of the Torah, Tamunim b'shem ha-mitzvah, u'pesukia sodos alyonos v'shorshim alyona. And every mitzvah of the Torah, it's not just doing the mitzvah, but hidden in each of this mitzvah are great secrets and roots above, and you have to work to achieve that level. These secrets are not always, they wouldn't be secret if they were easily revealed. So you have to dig in the ground to find the secrets. You do the mitzvah, and you have to do the mitzvah with the proper kavanah. This is what Hashem wants, not for any intellectual reason. Then you will you reach that level. This is what is said before every mitzvah. As I said at the beginning, when we make a bracha, Asher Kiddushar Mitzvosa, we make that God has made us holy with His commandments. Shem Yisborach Ichnis B'no Kedushas Aydei Mitzvos, that God gives us holiness through the commandments. Shebechol Mitzvah Yehudi Makayim Hu Mamshich B'Kirbo Kedusha Elyona. Every mitzvah that a Jew fulfills, he is fulfilling within him a holy, the root of the mitzvah. This also we know that one mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. What's the reward of doing a mitzvah? To be able to do another mitzvah. What gives you that power? The power of the holiness that you receive by doing one mitzvah. You do one mitzvah right, and you have the opportunity to do other mitzvahs right. Is also explained on these sentences. In the beginning, they just said Naaseh, we'll do. After that, they said, we will do, and then we will learn. Chazal tell us, things that are written in the Torah, the holy words of the Torah, you are not allowed to say verbally. You have to read them out of the book. A lot of people have a habit of, they know something and they just say it. The Torah tells us Chazal tell us not to do that. When you're going to quote a pasuk, look at the pasuk, read it from the Sefer. says you shouldn't. Uh, you're not allowed to say it verbally. V'havim, I understand by this, kidvorim shebeksav, in the written word, called shorish hakadush shalem tamu b'toch hakasu. The holiness, the root of the holiness is written in the word. If you say these verbally, they don't have this holiness. Therefore, is called Hashem Gomer. In the beginning, when Moshe just came and told the people all the words, he was just telling them verbally. That didn't have the holiness. Therefore, didn't have that root of holiness, so they said, we'll do it. Naaseh V'Nishma. We'll do, but we won't understand it. We won't learn it. They haven't reached the level of understanding, to understand, to reach and see the holy root that is hidden in them. Only after it's written that Moshe wrote these down, then he took the book Vayikra and he read from the words, not verbally. He read from the words written in the book, and the ears of the people. Then we had the words were written, and the holiness that they merited was contained within them. Also, and then they said Naaseh V'Nishma. Because from that time on, they understood V'Nekabel as Shorshe Mitzvah, they received the root of the commandments, Bechinas Hagba Me'al Gavoa the highest of the highest things that are hidden in them. Bechinas Ananafshi Ksiviyavi, as the aspect of I have written this and given it to you. Because that mitzvah brings you to coming closer, having a close relationship with Hashem. Nishma, and that's what it means to nishma, to understand, to learn, to hear. To understand, to receive the secrets of the higher mitzvah. Yehudi tzorich ladas b'chol mitzvahs haTorah shemakayim. A Jew has to know, according to all of the commandments of the Torah that he fulfills. Shigam im ein mevin, im eino mevin es hakavonos hatmurim. If you don't understand the intention of them, alav lahamin, you have to believe. You call it Torah kula b'tzufa kavonos hayona b'shor shalayon. Doesn't matter whether you understand it or not. You have to understand and believe that all of the Torah is a continuation of higher levels and higher levels of holiness and secrets that are contained. But that's what it says at the beginning. He told them, okay, never was that lashon sipur. So he thought it was like telling over. It wasn't written. From Moshe, only after it was written down did it have the higher level and the root of the mitzvah. Every mitzvah that is given gives the opportunity for a Jew to raise higher and is through the holiness and to come closer to God. All of these civil laws that are written, there's a specific reason and another purpose. The reason God gave the Torah to Bnei Israel, God wants to have a dwelling place in this world. When God sends down the soul of the Jew into this world, a world of materiality and difficulty, every person is busy working up and working hard to provide sustenance for himself. Because of this, God gave the Torah and the mitzvah should call mitzvah, because every mitzvah, halacha Yehudi, every halacha, every law that a Jew fulfills, and he's intending to do the will of God. That gets him closer, he's able to cleave to God. This is what the sages tell us. Called Dayan, every judge, Shadon Din Emes, Moso, that renders a proper judgment for his people, even if he's only working 1 hour a day in this judging process. The Torah considers it as if he's serving God from morning to night. It's like he's busy with Torah completely and for the purpose of Torah. And why Madua Bemes Hador came? Why is it like this? Should sieve to a Torah because all of the laws that the Torah command us relating to monetary disputes, etc. Tachlis kulam, the whole purpose of them, that the whole purpose of it is that a Jew should fulfill the commandments, should fulfill the will of God in this world. So that too also gives the ability to cleave to Hashem with everything that you do. A judge that judges, he's judging things relating to this world, monetary matters and so on, according to the will of God. Maybe there's at least he's getting to be able to cleave to God. By doing that, he's fulfilling the desire of God to have a dwelling place down below. It's like he's studying Torah all day long. Every Jew, this is a key. Every Jew, who gets involved in business things, everything that he does. If he thinks, what is the will of God as I'm doing this? What does God want me to do in terms of doing my business, in terms of doing whatever I'm doing? If he thinks about that, just doing everything for God's purpose is like you're studying Torah and you're serving Torah from morning to evening, because that's the whole purpose of what Hashem wants us to do His ratzon, and He then equates that to having studied Torah all day long. Parsha Yisrael, it says in Parsha Yisrael, remember, Kosher is called Lemor Anochi Hashem Elokecha. God says, I'm saying all these things to you, I am the Lord your God. All of these words are designed to bring you to the concept of I am the Lord your God. To have amuna, to have faith and cleaving to God, to Hashem your God. Hashem, who amuna, God is emuna, is faith. Elokecha is cleaving to God because you know that God is your God. Maldash Shomer Moras Habakodesh Bislonim Splenu Lachasnu Hari Lamer Kazeh Zal. He said to his son-in-law, "Emes, the truth is, Asr Lasiach Das Mashem Yisporach Afilu Rega Ach Echad. You shouldn't have your thoughts wander away from Hashem for even one moment. But that's very hard. How do you do that? How do you constantly concentrate and have Hashem in your mind? But I say nonetheless, you shouldn't have many moments of taking your attention away from God, that you don't remember God. Everything that you do comes from God. That's the purpose of every mitzvah, that a Jew will not have his mind leave the concept of knowing Hashem, that Hashem is with you. And through that, you will come to cleaving with Hashem. It's like we say, the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch says that when you wake up in the morning, you should recognize that there's somebody looking down on you, that Hashem does everything that you're doing. This also explains Lama Torah Kosher as Mishpatim Bemtza Parshas Kabbalah. Why is Mishpatim written in the middle of this Parsha of Kabbalah Torah, receiving the Torah? Lilmo, to teach us Sheva'ela Mosib Al Rishonim, that the word Ve'ela Mishpatim adds to the first one, meaning to Sinai and to Azeres Adibros. Below Rak Shem Mesina, not only that they're from Sinai, from Mount Sinai, but Elamah HaRishonim Hey Maseret Adibros, just like the first are the 10 Commandments of Eila Mishpatim, so too these commandments, these civil laws, Kol Halachas Hadinim V'Dinim Amanos Hadayanim, all the laws of judges and monetary matters, Hem Gam Kamo Chelik Maseret Adibros, they're like a part of the Aseres Adibros. They're part of the 10 Commandments. Shukulam Hem Lemor Anochi Hashem Elokecha, because all of them, you say Anochi Hashem Elokecha. This is given so that a Jew will remember God at all times. And his mind should never leave God in the aspect of Shavisi Hashem, I place Hashem before me always. Therefore, this is written in the middle of the giving of the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called Torah. God gives a Jew all of the Torah to enable a Jew to get through this world. It's, as I've said before many times, it's our instruction manual in the world. God gives us this instruction manual to be able to get through to raise higher, to take those things around us, raise them up. Kol Mishpatim Eino Sichli Anushi, they're not. All of these laws, these civil laws, are not intellectual laws, Ela Shekol Elokei Yisrael, but they're all from God Mimal above. The whole mitzvah Shehudi Makayim, every mitzvah that you fulfill, Haru Makayim B'zeh Shekol Elokei Mimal, you're doing the mitzvah because it's something God commanded. And this is such a hard concept, and it doesn't seem like it'll be hard, but it's very hard. People do so many mitzvos, unfortunately, by rote. They don't give a thought to, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I have a tradition of doing it. My father did it. My grandfather did it. No, I'm doing this because I want to have a higher level with God, and I want to do it with rote. When a Jew learns Torah, when he learns it, spends time on it, learns it, and delves into it, it doesn't matter whether he's understanding everything intellectually. He's learning to receive the knowledge of Hashem above. V'kam kishishoel stira, aydei zeh, misechlo el misechlo okay, echad al shekol okay shani. Even if he asks if there's contradictory things, he's trying to figure out what the contradiction is. He has to recognize all of it comes from Hashem. Shetachli kol Torah kula achasi. The purpose of the Torah is one. As kol v'ela lemor. All these things I've said. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am the Lord your God. Hainu emuna ahava v'veikut. I'm the Lord your God means you have emuna in God, you have faith in God, belief, love, and you're cleaving to God. Even if you don't know the inner root, she'll call mitzvah of every mitzvah. Nonetheless, the holiness of doing the mitzvah will continue through this emunah that you have, that there is holiness in everything that Hashem has said. Ad kan. So I think there's an important message that we have to learn from this as to how we approach our relationship with mitzvahs and serving God, that we have to do it in a way that we are not doing something because it makes sense to do it. It may make sense to do it, doesn't matter, but we're doing it, as I said, Zos Chukas HaTorah. God commanded us to do this, and therefore we should do God's commandments for that purpose alone. Whether you have the added advantage or disadvantage of maybe trying to find a reason to go with it, and I use both words, advantage, disadvantage. Disadvantage is that they'll say, well, since the reason no longer applies, we don't have to observe it. No, the reason is to, what does the Torah tell us about kosher food? It says not to eat nevela, not to eat treif. Why? Ki kadosh Hashem, because you are holy to God. It's a concept of holiness, not a concept of health. Too many people think that these laws of kashrus, specifically pork, was given for health reasons because it's trichnosis. But now today you can, by proper cooking, get rid of the trichnosis. So it's not a problem. That isn't it. It doesn't permit us to eat pork. The command isn't given to us because of health reasons. It's given to us, well, it's the health of our neshama, but not the health of our body. It's given us to do the Risot Hashem. And I will just close with one thing I've said before. When we do anything in this life, we should always ask ourselves two things. Am I doing this to please Hashem? And will Hashem be pleased with what I do? Thank you. I'll take any questions before I turn the recording off. And if not, I'll take questions after I turn the recording off. So bear with me a moment.